Hello everyone and welcome to Lush and Salty Aquariums. My name is Stefan. Thanks for coming to the channel. Not looking at an aquarium today, but rather gonna talk some live foods, live fish food, the absolute best thing to give your fish. And there's a few different varieties and benefits that are unique to each one. And I'm gonna talk about that as well as talk about a particular variety that's conspicuously out of stock pretty much everywhere in the United States, and I'll get to that one in a moment. Let's start with Daphnia magna. These are little micro crustaceans. I bought a portion from the local fish shop in Morton Grove. That's actually the name of the place, the local fish shop. So I'm not just being generic. That's what they call themselves, a great little emporium of fresh and saltwater fish, and they happen to have a pretty big Daphnia culture. So the deal with these great creatures, first of all, they come in all the different sizes. Generally speaking, in any culture, you'll have super teeny ones up to these fairly big ones, at least relative to their small size in general. And that means you can feed different kinds of fish, different sizes of fish simultaneously. The other great thing about Daphnia is if you culture them, you can have an ongoing supply. Now, culturing them requires, I'd say, a minimum of 5-gallon tank, but you can culture in buckets, as I did in Northern California, with just a air stone, very light, big bubbles, not little ones, so you don't get micro bubbles underneath these micro crustaceans' carapace or their shell, which could hurt them. But they're easy to culture outdoors, at least between weather that's 50 degrees and up. Too hot, too cold can be a problem, but they're pretty hardy. And you feed them green water or spirulina or yeast, right? And that's all readily available information online. So I spent $7-8 for this culture, and I'm not going to try and propagate them. I'm just going to seed my sump and one or two of my tanks, and just, when they get eaten, good for the fish that find them. And if they do last a while and reproduce, good for me. So that's the deal with Daphnia. Generally speaking, you can get them in ponds, or you can buy cultures online or at your local fish shop. Obviously, if you get from ponds, it's free, but watch out for problematic creatures in the net, like dragonfly larvae, etc., which are vicious predators. The next one is the old staple brine shrimp, right? So these are live brine shrimp. Much harder to keep them at this size in your own home. I mean, you can do it, but they're generally very cheap if you have a place near you that sells them. I like these not so much for their nutritional value, which is modest. At the adult size, they're pretty much just like potato chips. But because they're alive and move around, fish go bonkers, and it brings out their hunting instinct, which is always healthy for tank-bred fish, to give them reminders of the wildlife. And I like to do it because I'm a conscientious fish keeper, and it makes me feel good to provide something special to my fish to supplement flakes and pellets. So that's live adult brine shrimp. Now, these are live baby brine shrimp. You can see the movement more than the individuals. That's a bunch, a lot. That I raise these myself, and that's easy to do, and I recommend you do it. And I feed adult fish these, not just babies. I don't really have any baby fish. But adult fish, make no mistake, it's small, but they'll go nuts and just engulf them, right? You know how in the wild, a whale, which is the size of a truck, just eats plankton, just eats a lot of it. So, it's a bit of a half-baked analogy, but think of it the same way. I don't add the salt water for either of these. I just pour it into a shrimp net and then add the orange cluster, which is what you'll get. You'll get just a thick cluster, and I just add that with any kind of device, an egg drop or even the back of a spoon, into all my tanks, and boom, it's gone in 5 minutes. So you can raise these yourself, and I recommend that you do. By the way, for those that don't know, these are the same exact thing as sea monkeys, the little critters we grew up trying to raise and then did it and got bored in one time only. But sea monkeys are baby brine shrimp that grow into bigger brine shrimp. Now you can get these to grow bigger. They lose their nutritional value, as I said before. And you need salt water, and you need a larger tank, and I don't know if it's worth it. If you have a supplier, these are only a few bucks a portion, and you can get enough for all your tanks. The deal is, once you put them in a specimen container, all of these really, you have to either feed them or do something with them. They can't just sit very long like this, or they'll perish within an hour or two. So that's these three. Now the one I mentioned, it's actually my favorite. I know baby brine shrimp are my favorite. I couldn't do without those. But I love live blackworms. And if you find a supplier, and there's a few in Chicago here and everywhere, good on you. You can also order them from California Blackworms. That's where I got this blackworm container, which is basically let's do this now. There you go. Sorry about that. This is a straining device. You put it in there with cold water. You put your live blackworms in there, tinfoil on top, put it in the refrigerator. That'll last a few weeks. The thing is, there are no blackworms. There's plenty of Diet Dr. Pepper, but there are no blackworms to be had in the United States of America because, as all my favorite local fish shops have told me, a certain supplier or some kind of breeder or somebody contracted all the known supply, and so what I'm hearing is there will be no live blackworms until spring, March or April, which sucks. I did find at the Fish Planet, an excellent store in Deerfield, Illinois. They had some, but they wouldn't sell them to me because they were keeping them for the proprietors of axolotas that particularly that they sold. Those creatures, at least from what they told me, only eat the live blackworm. So out of courtesy to their customers and as a great benefit to those creatures, they're only selling them to people that own axolotas, if I'm saying that right. I don't own that creature. They're cool, but it's not my thing. In any event, live blackworms are the creme de la creme. They last a few weeks in your refrigerator if your wife or spouse can put up with that. They're kind of gross, but they're inconspicuous, and if you change the water, there's certainly no odor or anything like that, and it just looks like a blue box in the refrigerator. You would pull out a clump of them because they stick together in the cold water, put it in a little thing like that, and then go to your tanks and feed. And man, it's just protein that wiggles. It's an awesome live fish food. I think certainly better than adult brine shrimp, and as good or better than Daphnia, and easier for more different fish to eat because there's no shell to break through. So, moratorium on blackworms, the pros and cons, and there aren't that many cons other than they cost money, and if you don't raise them, you're constantly buying more, and they don't have much of a shelf life unless, of course, you're raising them, and there's no guarantee you'll have success. You can get the Daphnia is just known for crashing. I'll be feeding these to my fish today, everything you're looking at today, and then waiting for spring to get this, because even online it says not available. So there you have it, folks. A bit about live fish food. What a great treat for your creatures, and what a great treat for me to supply you this content. Please hit me up. I'd love to talk fish keeping with you. As always, keep your hands in the tank. Ciao for now.